I never imagined a simple lie would change the course of my entire life. But it did. And it all started with a coffee conversation I wasn't prepared for. My name's Daniel, 27, and I work as a project analyst at a prestigious corporate firm. I've always kept my head down, did my job, stayed out of drama. But that changed the day Elena began showing up more frequently at the office. Elena, my boss's wife, was everything you'd expect from someone married to a powerful man like Mr. Cameron. She had poise, grace, and this warmth about her that seemed so out of place in our sterile workplace. She'd smile at the receptionist, bring pastries for the team, and occasionally walk past my desk to ask how the day was going. At first, I didn't think much of it. I figured she was just being nice. But then it became more regular. The way she'd lingered just a little longer near my desk. The way her eyes would lock with mine during meetings her husband brought her to. And those smiles, always knowing, never forced. I started noticing more than I wanted to. The subtle way she adjusted her scarf when I entered a room. How she always seemed to know when I was around. And somehow, without meaning to, I began thinking about her outside of work. I'd catch myself imagining scenarios, harmless ones, or so I told myself. A conversation at a bookstore. A run-in at a coffee shop. Nothing that would ever happen. Nothing I would ever act on. Still, it felt dangerous. Cameron wasn't just any boss. He was the type of man who made people nervous just by walking into a room. Cold. Commanding. The kind of guy who could destroy a career with a phone call. But Elena wasn't like him. She had this energy that made her seem real. Like someone who wasn't entirely comfortable in the world she lived in. One day, I was sitting in the corner cafe below our office, headphones in, laptop open, pretending to work through some spreadsheets. She slid into the seat across from me like it was the most natural thing in the world. "I hope I'm not disturbing anything," she said, smiling softly. I pulled out one earbud and shook my head. "Not at all." "I like this place," she said. "Quiet. Easy to disappear in." She sipped her drink, studied me for a moment, then asked, "Do you like me?" The question hit me so hard I froze. My heart jumped. My throat dried instantly. I looked at her, trying to read her expression, trying to decide what game she was playing. "I mean," she added casually, "you're always so polite but distant. I can't tell if it's because of who I am or because you don't like me." I laughed awkwardly. I wanted to say so many things. I wanted to tell her she was beautiful, kind, completely out of my league. I wanted to say I thought about her more than I should, that her presence unsettled me in ways I couldn't explain. But all I said was, "No, not like that." It came out too quickly. Too rehearsed. A lie, plain and clear. Her smile faltered for a split second. She nodded and looked down at her cup. "Right," she said. "I figured." She didn't say much else after that. We sat in silence until she finished her drink. Then she stood up and said she had errands to run. She left without looking back. The moment she walked out, regret hit me like a truck. I had lied. Completely. I did like her. More than I should. But what was I supposed to say? That I fantasized about her in my quiet moments? That I compared every woman I met to her? She avoided me after that. Not rudely. Just distant. No more stops at my desk. No more quick glances or soft greetings. She faded into the background. I told myself that was a good thing. Safer. Less complicated. But I missed her presence. I missed the way the room felt when she was in it. I missed the unspoken tension. I missed her eyes. 3 weeks passed. Then one Thursday evening, I heard a knock at my apartment door. It was late, close to 9:30. I opened it, half expecting a neighbor needing help with something. It was Elena. She stood there in a dark coat, hair pulled back, face unreadable. "I probably shouldn't be here," she said before I could speak. "But I didn't believe you. When you said you didn't like me." I stepped aside without a word. She walked in. I closed the door behind her. She didn't sit. She paced. Then she turned to face me. "I needed to know if I was imagining it," she said. The looks, the tension, the silence. It felt real. "It was," I said quietly. "So, why lie?" "Because it was wrong,"
I said.
You're married. He's my boss. That's not a line I'm supposed to cross. She walked closer. Do you think I don't know that? I looked at her, really looked. She didn't have her usual polish. No jewelry. No makeup. Her hands were trembling slightly. I don't know what you want from me, I said. I don't know either, she whispered. But I needed to see what you'd do. And then she kissed me.
Soft.
Hesitant. As if waiting for me to stop her. I didn't. The kiss didn't last long. Just enough to set everything on fire. When we pulled apart, neither of us said a word. She stared at me like she was memorizing something important. Then she walked to the door, opened it, and paused. I'll be at the lake house this weekend, she said without turning. Alone. Then she left. I stood there, door still open, heart racing, life unraveling with every breath. I didn't sleep that night. Her words looped in my head. I'll be at the lake house this weekend. Alone. I knew exactly what she meant. I also knew I shouldn't go. I replayed the kiss over and over, the feel of her lips, the weight of her eyes on me. I thought I had imagined the connection, the pull. I hadn't. It was real. And dangerous. Saturday morning, I drove out. I told myself I was only going for closure. To tell her it couldn't happen again. But I packed an overnight bag. The lake house was quiet, set back in the woods, with a view of the water that could make you forget about the world. She greeted me at the door without a word. No pretenses. No awkwardness. Just unspoken understanding. We didn't talk much that first evening. She made tea. I sat on the porch. She joined me, close but not touching. The silence between us wasn't uncomfortable, it was charged. Every glance, every slight movement, felt like a conversation we weren't ready to have. When she reached for my hand, I didn't pull away. And when she leaned her head against my shoulder, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. I knew where this was heading.
So, did she?
But no one stopped. The first time was slow, careful, like we were testing the rules of something sacred and forbidden. There was no guilt in the moment, only hunger and release. Afterward, we laid in bed without speaking, just listening to the wind move through the trees. The next morning, she cooked breakfast. It felt surreal, like we were playing house. But beneath the warmth was an edge. I asked her if Cameron ever suspected anything. She shook her head.
He doesn't see me, she said.
He sees what I represent. Pretty wife. Proper smile. Quiet presence at events. But he hasn't asked me what I need in years. I wanted to tell her I wasn't just a distraction, that I could be more, but the words caught in my throat. Maybe I was just a distraction. Maybe I was the first one who noticed she was drowning. The weeks that followed were a blur of secrecy. Hotel rooms booked under fake names. Quick meetings at my apartment. Late-night texts. We talked more, really talked, about our lives, our pasts, things we never said to anyone else. She told me about her dreams before she married Cameron. How she wanted to be a photographer. How her parents pushed her into marrying stability instead of chasing passion. I told her about my own regrets. The years I wasted being afraid of risk. The time I didn't ask out the girl I loved in college. How I settled into a safe life that never quite felt mine. We fit into each other's wounds. But as the passion grew, so did the paranoia. At work, I felt eyes on me. Cameron started dropping by my desk more often. Small talk. Fake smiles. He even invited me to dinner one night, just him and Elena. I declined. Made an excuse about family. The next morning, Elena texted me one word. Close. Asked her if he was onto us. She said she didn't think so, but I could tell she wasn't sure. I started double-checking my phone, deleting messages, avoiding eye contact in meetings. Every time she walked into the office, I stiffened, waiting for someone to see something in our eyes. One night, I asked her why she stayed with him. I didn't want to start over, she said. Didn't want to face the judgment. The lawyers. The humiliation. I thought I could endure him.
Until I met you.
She looked at me like I was salvation. I started believing I was. But a part of me wondered if she was telling me the whole truth. Cameron wasn't warm, but He never struck me as abusive. And Elena, she was smart, composed, calculated. She knew how to navigate this world. Was I really her escape? Or just a tool? That thought didn't stop me. I was too far gone. I craved her presence, the way she made me feel seen. I told myself we were two people trying to find light in a dark place. That it wasn't love, maybe, but something close. Something just as real. We argued once. She accused me of pulling back. I told her I felt like I was falling without a net. She kissed me hard and said, "Then don't look down." But the cracks were forming. My performance at work slipped. I missed deadlines, forgot appointments. My manager asked if everything was okay. I lied and said I was fine. I wasn't. I had dreams about Cameron finding out, about losing everything, about Elena vanishing without a trace. And then, one day, she did. No texts, no calls. She didn't come to the office for 2 days. I went to the lake house. Empty. Her phone went straight to voicemail. When she finally showed up again, it was a Friday afternoon. She came to my apartment, drenched from the rain, her lips slightly bruised.
He found out, she said.
I froze. What do you mean he found out?
He saw a message. From you.
I tried to lie, but he knew. I asked what he did. She didn't answer. Just shook her head. He's not who you think he is, she said. He hides behind that suit, that job, but he's a different man behind closed doors. I wanted to ask more, but she was unraveling in front of me. I held her.
She cried.
I told her I'd protect her, help her leave. She looked up and whispered, "You don't understand. He won't let me go." In that moment, I believed her completely. The fear in her eyes wasn't staged. It was real. She was scared. And I was angry. I started planning. I looked up lawyers. I offered to go with her to file for separation. But she hesitated. "I need to be smart about this," she said. "If I just run, he'll destroy us both." She asked me to be patient, to trust her. So I waited. But something had shifted. The fantasy had shattered. The thrill was gone. All that was left was risk. And love, maybe. Or dependence. I couldn't tell anymore. She was right. He wasn't going to let her go easily. And I wasn't sure if I was strong enough to pull her out. The following week, everything changed. Something in me refused to let this stay a secret any longer. The guilt, the weight, the growing sense that I was spiraling out of control, it all became unbearable. I started watching him.
Cameron, my boss.
Her husband. I studied his schedule, his patterns, his mood shifts. He seemed unchanged. Still cold, composed, calculated. But occasionally there were moments, pauses in conversation, looks that lingered a second too long, that made me question if he knew more than he let on. I asked Elena again if she was sure he hadn't known before. She just said, "He knows now. And he's watching both of us." She looked tired, almost hollow. I pressed her for details. What exactly had he said? What exactly had he done? But she dodged. Said it didn't matter. That what mattered now was being careful. But the more she avoided specifics, the more I began to wonder. Was she protecting me? Or protecting herself? Something didn't feel right. The bruises were fading, but they lingered in my memory. Her fear felt real. Still, there were gaps she wouldn't explain. Then, a message from HR. An official complaint. Anonymous. Allegations of inappropriate conduct with a senior employee's spouse. My stomach dropped. I knew what this was. A warning shot. A power move. I confronted her that evening. She denied filing anything. Said she hadn't told anyone. I believed her or wanted to. But suspicion started eating away at me. If Cameron had found out, why wasn't I fired already? Why go through HR? Why not confront me directly? "I think he wants to watch you squirm," she said. "He wants you to suffer."
Slowly. He's not going to fire you.
He's going to break you. That's when I realized I had underestimated him. Cameron wasn't going to react emotionally. He was going to dismantle me, piece by piece, until I had nothing left. And Elena? She might have been the match, but I was the one burning. I started documenting everything. Every message. Every time she visited. Every odd conversation at work. If this was going to end badly, I needed proof that it wasn't one-sided. That I wasn't the aggressor. That I wasn't delusional. But then came the night I'll never forget. She showed up at my apartment again. This time different. No fear. No tears. Just a strange calm. She sat down and told me something I wasn't ready for. "I'm leaving him," she said. "But not because of you." I didn't understand. I thought everything we'd done was leading to this moment. Us, together, finally free. But she explained. "I've been planning this for months.
Before you.
I just didn't know how to make him look like the villain until now." That's when it clicked. "You used me," I said. "No," she replied. "I needed you. There's a difference." She told me about the lawyer. The photos. The texts. How she'd made sure it all looked one-sided, like I was the pursuer. She could prove infidelity, humiliation, betrayal. Grounds for divorce that would turn sympathy in her favor. She wanted out, and I had unknowingly become the perfect exit strategy. I asked her if any of it was real.
If she ever cared about me.
Her answer was quiet.
Yes.
But it doesn't matter now, does it? I didn't sleep that night. Or the next. I kept waiting for the fallout. For Cameron to call me into his office. For the lawsuit. For the explosion. Instead, I got silence. Just nothing. A week passed. Then two. Then a private investigator showed up at my door. He said he was working on behalf of Cameron's legal team. He asked questions I refused to answer. Showed me photos I didn't know had been taken. Told me I could be subpoenaed. I tried calling Elena. She didn't answer. She was gone. Moved out. Disappeared. At work, people started whispering. A few colleagues stopped talking to me altogether. My manager said I was being transitioned off active projects. They called it a restructuring. I knew it wasn't. I went to Cameron's office. Asked to speak to him. He looked at me like I didn't exist. "You made a mistake," he said simply. "You thought you mattered." Then he smiled, closed his laptop, and dismissed me without a second thought.
That smile haunted me.
The next day, HR called me in again. Termination. Breach of conduct. Effective immediately. No chance to explain. No appeal. Just a cardboard box and an escort out of the building. I didn't fight it. I couldn't. The damage was already done. She had played both of us. Or maybe just me. I didn't even know anymore. All I knew was that I had lost everything. My job, my reputation, my future, because I believed a lie dressed in affection. I drove to the lake house one last time. It was locked up. Empty. Like it had never existed. I sat in the car for hours, trying to piece together when exactly I stopped being a person to her and started being a means to an end. I remembered her last words to me. "You lied to me once. I lied to you 100 times. We're even." But we weren't even. I lost everything. And she walked away clean. The worst part? A part of me still missed her. Still wondered if maybe, somehow, there was truth in the middle of all those lies. Maybe she did love me. Maybe she just didn't know how to escape without breaking someone. But it didn't matter anymore. The truth was out. The cost was paid. And I was the only one who didn't see it coming.
Of
3
course.
months after it all
Here's
collapsed,
section one
I was
with
working at a temp
1,500
agency
words,
downtown, just trying to make ends meet. A
Emotionally
job that didn't
charged
require
narrative in
questions,
Reddit story
that didn't
voice,
care about the
faceless,
scandal I'd
no
left
fluff,
behind.
and
I kept my
faithful to
head down,
infidelity
took the late
tropes,
shifts, told people
psychological
my name was
tension.
Dan. Vulnerability,
It was easier that
emotional
way.
buildup,
No
and
past,
quiet
no
moral
context,
erosion, no pity.
I never
Every
thought
now
I'd
and
be
then
the kind of person to
I'd
even
hear her
think
name,
about what happened,
Elena,
let alone
in
tell
conversations,
anyone.
or
But
see
I
a photo
can't
of her
stop
in some
reflecting.
digital tabloid.
Maybe putting it into
Smiling
words
at a
will help
charity
me
event.
understand where it all
She
went
dyed her
wrong.
hair darker.
Or
maybe I
freer,
just want to feel less
happier.
alone in this.
There were rumors
It started
she got
the
a
week my
hefty
parents
settlement.
went on their
Some
anniversary
said
trip,
Cameron settled
something they
quietly
planned
for
to avoid
months.
attention.
They were excited,
Others said
and I was happy
she had
for them.
leveraged that
I
forced
just
his hand.
moved back home
Whatever the
temporarily
truth
after a
was,
breakup.
she came
5
out of it
years
untouched.
with someone who cheated
Elevated
on me with
even.
someone I thought
I
was
lived
a friend.
in a small studio
Classic,
apartment
I
now.
know.
No
I was
more lake
emotionally
houses,
raw,
no more
and
business class
to be
perks.
honest, I didn't
Just
really
a
want to be
mattress on
around
the
anyone.
floor, a mini
But
fridge,
the house
and
wasn't going to
silence.
be completely
I kept
empty.
to myself.
He was
Still
spent
there,
nights replaying
my
everything,
younger brother,
trying to figure out what
technically
was
my
real
stepbrother,
and
but we'd
what was
grown up
staged.
together since I was
But
12,
that never got me
and
anywhere.
he was 9.
There were no
we weren't
answers.
close in that cheesy
Just questions
way,
that didn't
but
matter
we got
anymore.
along.
He
One
was
afternoon,
quieter than I remembered.
I ran into
but then
someone
again,
from the old office.
I'd been gone for a
Karen
while.
from accounting,
College,
moving in
she
with
didn't
my
recognize
ex
me
that
at
whole
first.
chapter.
When she
When I
did,
saw him
her
again,
face
I felt
changed.
weird.
Not
Not
anger,
because anything
not
was
sympathy,
wrong.
just
He
discomfort.
wasn't a kid anymore.
I heard you moved out
He'd
of the
grown
city.
up, she said.
A lot.
No.
Taller,
Still around.
broader shoulders,
I
and
replied.
this kind of
She
quiet
hesitated.
confidence that hadn't
They
been
said
there
it got
before.
messy.
His voice
I
had
nodded.
changed,
It
deeper
did.
than I expected.
Then she said
and
something
he
that
had that
stuck with
casual
me.
way of walking
Funny
around
thing is,
shirtless like
Elena's
it
the
meant
one
nothing.
who walked
I
away
noticed, without a
and
scratch.
that made me feel guilty.
It's like
even then.
she flipped the
But
script
I
before
brushed it
anyone
off.
else even got
It's
to read
normal
it.
to notice
I
when
didn't
someone
reply.
looks different
What
after
could
time.
I say?
Doesn't mean
She was
anything.
right.
After
The
that,
first
I
night
started
we were
writing
alone.
everything down.
It was uneventful.
Not for anyone else.
We ordered takeout.
Just for me.
Watched
I wanted to
something
make
dumb
sense
on
of the
Netflix.
chaos.
Sat on
Put it in
opposite ends
order.
of the couch.
See if
We didn't
on
talk
paper
much,
it looked
just
less
laughed
insane.
at the screen occasionally.
But the more I wrote,
But there was
the
this
clearer it
silence
became.
between the laughter.
None of it was random.
Not uncomfortable.
Every move,
but
every
charged.
silence,
Like both of
every
us were
gentle
pretending we
manipulation.
didn't feel it.
It was
He
all
asked
part
me
of
about
her
my
design.
ex.
And
I
me,
gave him the short
I was
version.
the perfect target.
Cheating, lying,
young,
me leaving.
eager,
He didn't say
lonely.
much.
I
Just
wasn't
nodded,
in
then
love.
said,
I was
"He's an
infatuated
idiot."
with the
I
idea
laughed
of being
genuinely
needed.
for the first
And she
time
gave
in a
me
while.
that.
Gave
Yeah,
it so
I
well
said.
I believed it
I
was
know.
mutual.
He looked
But
at me
it was
longer
never
than I
mutual.
expected.
It was
not
tactical,
in a creepy way.
That
Just
realization
long enough for me
didn't
to
come
feel
with
it.
rage.
His
Just
eyes weren't the
sadness.
same.
They
And
weren't
clarity.
kid eyes.
I stopped
They were
reaching
sharp,
out,
serious,
deleted old
searching.
messages.
It made me
Threw out
shift
the
in my
photos.
seat. That
Every
night,
now
I
and
couldn't
then,
sleep.
I'd still
Not
dream
because
about
of
her.
anything specific.
Not the real her,
Just that
the
restless
version
energy.
she let me see.
I kept
The
thinking about
version
how
who whispered
grown he
that we
looked.
could run away,
How the house
that
felt
it could be
quieter
different.
than it used to.
But I knew better
I
now.
remembered when we were
One
kids
evening,
and used
while
to
picking
fight
up
over the
groceries,
remote, or
I saw her
who got
again.
the last slice of
She was
pizza.
standing across the
Now we
parking
were
lot,
adults,
near
pretending
a
we
sleek
didn't
black
know
car.
how much had changed.
Designer coat.
The next day was
Sunglasses.
casual.
I
Everything
worked
about
remotely.
her screamed
He had
status.
summer classes online.
She hadn't seen me
We
yet.
barely crossed
For a
paths.
second, I
But in the
considered
evening,
turning around.
we cooked dinner
But
together.
something in me
something we
refused to
hadn't done
move.
in years.
Then her
It
gaze
was
met
awkward
mine.
at first.
No reaction.
We kept bumping into each
No
other in the
flicker
kitchen,
of guilt.
laughing it
No
off,
recognition
brushing
in
arms.
her eyes.
At one
She
point,
looked right
I
through
turned
me,
to grab something,
and then
he
she
was standing
smiled,
right behind
polite,
me.
hollow,
I froze for
and
half
turned
a
away.
second too long. That moment,
So
more than
did
anything,
he.
closed the
That
chapter.
night, we watched
She
another
had
movie.
erased me. This time,
Just like
he
that.
sat a little closer.
I left the lot
not
without
close
buying
enough
anything.
to be obvious.
Sat in my
But
car for an
closer.
hour. And
Watching
when
the
the
movie
city
got
move
around
around
me,
me, we started
and
talking over
I
it.
realized I
Just
didn't hate
random
her.
stuff.
I didn't want
Jokes.
revenge.
Memes.
I just wanted my
I
life
teased
back.
him about his old
So
haircut.
I rebuilt.
He joked about my
Applied for
teenage
smaller
emo
jobs
phase.
under my real name.
I laughed until
Started
I cried.
freelancing for
At
startups
some point,
that
he
didn't
said,
care about
"I
background
missed having
drama."
you around.
Slowly,
It
I
hit me
began
harder
carving
than
out
I
something
expected.
new. My
Not
throat
flashy.
tightened.
No
No
one
one
had
had said
impressive,
anything like
but
that to me in
honest.
months. I learned
Not
to be okay
since the breakup.
with quiet,
Not since I
with
left
simplicity,
everything behind.
with a life that
I
no
looked at
longer
him,
needed
and
someone
for a
else's
second,
chaos.
I didn't
to
see
feel
my
significant.
stepbrother.
One
I
night,
saw someone
I got
who
an
saw me.
email from a journalist,
Someone who meant it.
said he was
I
writing a
missed you
piece on
too.
corporate scandals.
I
had
said,
stumbled on my
barely
name,
above a whisper.
wanted to talk off the record.
couch felt smaller than it
declined.
had earlier.
There was nothing
Our
left
knees
to say.
brushed once,
My
then
story
twice.
wasn't a cautionary
Neither
tale.
of us moved.
It was just
My
a mess.
heart was pounding.
People wanted
and
villains
I told myself
and
I was
victims.
being dramatic.
I was neither.
That nothing was
Eventually,
happening.
I
Even
went
the
to bed
nightmares
early,
stopped.
or
I
pretended
slept
to.
through the night.
I just
without
needed
seeing her
space
face.
to breathe.
Without
But
waking
all night,
in
I
panic.
tossed and turned.
That felt like the
thinking
biggest
about the
one
way
of
he
all.
looked at me.
And then,
like he
months
wanted to
later,
say more.
something
Like he was
unexpected
holding
happened.
back.
I met
The
someone.
next morning, I
Real.
avoided him.
Simple.
Told him I
No
had
games.
meetings. She
Kept
didn't
my
ask about my
headphones
past
in.
right away.
But even
and
through
when
the
she
door,
eventually did,
I could
hear
hear
him
her.
moving around.
Not all of it,
humming to
just
himself,
enough.
singing
She didn't
quietly.
flinch.
touch.
His
She didn't
voice was
pity me.
nice. She
I
just
hadn't
listened.
noticed that before.
And that was
Everything
enough.
felt heightened
We'd
now.
sit on her balcony,
Every moment,
talk about
every
anything,
glance,
and
it was like
everything.
my brain was
there were
looking
no
for things to
secrets,
focus on,
no hidden meanings,
ways to
and
distract
words,
myself from
just
the loneliness
honesty.
that had cracked
It felt
open something
strange at
inside me.
first.
That
But
night,
slowly, I began
we
to
didn't watch
trust
a
it.
movie.
One day,
He suggested
she
a
said,
board game
"You've
we
been
used to
through
play."
something. I rolled
I
my
can
eyes,
see it in your
but
eyes.
agreed. It was stupid
I
fun.
smiled.
We were
Yeah,
competitive,
but I came
we
out of
joked,
it, and
we
I
yelled.
had.
I
sat
wasn't the
close.
man I used to be.
Our thighs touched.
Not as trusting.
At one point, not as
He
naive,
reached across me for the
but
dice,
stronger
and
in a
his
quieter
hand
way.
brushed mine.
I didn't need intensity.
He didn't pull away
to feel
immediately.
alive anymore.
Neither did I.
I didn't need
It was a
secrets
3-second
to feel
touch.
chosen.
I had
Maybe
let go
less,
of the lie,
but it felt
the one I
longer,
told Elena,
electric,
and
charged,
the one I told myself,
like we both knew. I got up and went to the kitchen without a word.
I needed a second to think. I leaned against the counter, staring into the dark, trying to convince myself I was imagining things, that this was just a weird phase. I was vulnerable, that was all. I'd just been through hell. I wasn't thinking clearly. Then I heard him walk in behind me. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there. I didn't turn around. I felt his presence like static. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. He stepped closer. "You seem off." I turned to face him. "I'm just tired." He looked at me for a long moment. "You don't have to pretend with me. You're allowed to not be okay." My throat burned. That stupid knot came back. "Why are you being so nice to me?" He smiled, but it was sad. "Because I care about you. Always have." I blinked, and before I could say anything, he stepped back, gave a half laugh like he'd said too much, and left the room. I stood there for a long time, gripping the counter, heart thudding like I'd just run a marathon. That night, I dreamed of him. Not in a graphic way. But he was there holding my hand, telling me I was safe, that I wasn't broken, that I mattered. I woke up in a sweat. I felt disgusting, confused, angry with myself, angry at him for being kind, for seeing me when I didn't want to be seen. The line hadn't been crossed yet, but we were towing it, and I wasn't sure I wanted to step back. Let me know when you're ready for section 2, or if you want any edits to tone, pacing, or intensity.